Want to stop juggling spreadsheets, calendars, and a dozen apps just to run your rentals? Logify makes it easy. It's an all-in-one toolkit for hosts. Build a direct booking website, automate guest messaging, and keep all your channels in sync. Running your rental business your way has never been simpler. And for Good Morning Hospitality listeners, you can get 20% off any yearly plan with code GMH20. Just check the link in the show notes to get started today.
Welcome to Good Morning Hospitality, your one-stop shop for the latest news, noteworthy trends, and thought-provoking discussions across the industry. From hotels and short-term rentals to all things travel and hospitality, you'll find each episode equips you with the information that you need to start your week. Join us on Good Morning Hospitality every Monday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, friends. Nice to see you both. How are we? Rafi?
Yeah, pretty good. I woke up at 6:30 a.m. to do yoga this morning because I got peer pressured from both of you. Both of you last night were saying, okay, we're each going to do sports tomorrow morning before the call. So I did it, but someone didn't. Let's talk about that.
Oh no. Yeah, I did not. I was the one bullying everyone last night. I was like, hey, I'm waking up super early. I'm gonna go to the gym, all this kind of stuff. And yeah, no, I went to Pilates last night and the last like 15 minutes just kind of felt like I was gonna vomit. And so I got home and just had like I don't know, low blood sugar or a heat wave, something. I overheated, whatever. I got very ill. I didn't feel good. So I decided to take it a little bit easy this morning. I will be walking to the office later.
Doesn't count, Sarah. Doesn't count. That's just a mode of transport. It's a mode of transport. Your legs are your mode of transport. It's true. I mean, look, Sarah's the boss when it comes to exercise, right? So like if Sarah tells us, guys, you got to get in the gym early doors, me and Rafi just do it. We just do as we're told, you know? Like I was sweating, thinking, oh God, I've got to do this. I can't let the team down.
Yeah,
So,
even angels fall sometimes, I guess, guys. Sorry. Already let you down. But hey, good news is I motivated you to work out and don't you feel so much better?
Fair enough. Although I hated waking up at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
6:30.
Gross.
I don't mind the early starts, you know. I don't mind. I think what I really struggle with is when I haven't exercised in the morning or at lunchtime and I know it's hanging over my head in the evening. So you, Sarah, going to a Pilates class in the evening, that to me is real. That's real strength, but rather than doing it first thing.
I hate doing it in the evenings. They just didn't have any openings in the morning. So it's like a really small studio and you have like a specific slot. So I'm on the waiting list for a morning slot. I hate working out in the evenings, but I like Pilates.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. I like the evening workouts better.
Yeah, it's just that first coffee after you've done the exercise, you just feel $1 million. You're like, oh, this is sensational. They've got these very good. I don't know if they have them in Europe. The Barry's Boot Camp. I think you might have them. And you basically go and get beaten up by this, like, you know, these range of horrible masochistic instructors. And like, you know, there's like a row of treadmills and a row of weights, and you swap and you alternate. Sarah's like, I do this every morning, right?
That's what I do in the gym. I go like twice a week. Yeah, it's torture, but it's fabulous.
Yeah, it's boot camp, right? Yeah. So that's okay, cool. Right, next time in Barcelona, sign me up. I'm going to go with you. Let's do it together. I'd love to. Rafi, you good?
Yeah. We'll talk about it later.
But the Barry's is great, and the showers are lovely, and it's all bougie, and then you can pre-order your smoothie so that as you leave the class, you get your smoothie.
Yeah, my gym does not have that. They just have the torture bit. So no smoothies.
How's everyone been? What's everyone been up to? Plans, fun stuff?
I'm actually going to the Olympics this weekend.
Wow.
What are you
fun.
What are you going to see, and how did you get a ticket? Tell us more.
I'm going to watch rock climbing.
Amazing.
Fun.
And I got the ticket through a partner from OYO Network.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
I can't believe I didn't know rock climbing was an Olympic sport. How long has that been a thing?
I don't know. Like, I've recently gotten into rock climbing. I'm doing it with some colleagues after work every week. So I'm excited to watch it because now I understand the difficulty of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've never really followed it before.
Is it like the speed ones where they have to get all the way to the top in a, like, I don't know, 9 seconds or something crazy like that? Or is it more?
No. So there's that one, but then I think we're going to watch the bouldering.
Cool.
So it's not super high, but it's like difficult to, it's like more strategic.
Interesting.
And that's what
Lovely.
I do. So like, I'm really, really keen. I'm super excited to see it.
I'm jealous of that, Rafi. That's very fun. Sarah, what about you? What have you been up to, or what are you going to be up to?
Yeah, not a whole lot. I did a whole bunch of nothing at the weekend, and it was just what the doctor ordered. Sat around on the beach on Saturday and Sunday. Just sat around and watched the Olympics. And hung out in the house and didn't leave the house all day. It's great.
Love it.
What about you?
Love it.
Tell us
So
about the festival.
So we went off to the festival. Obviously, we'd just spoken last week, hadn't we? When we were packing our bag, packing up the car. I'm such a dad. I've got a roof box for the car now. I love it. I love it. Just shove it in the roof box and off we go. Honestly, I'm more proud of this roof box than I'm proud of anything I've done in the last 6 months. This shows my age. And so we get to the festival and we realize very quickly that being at a festival with a toddler and a 13-week-old baby is a mistake. And the reason I know I made a mistake is because there's people in like full body glitter paint, like, drinking, having a great time. And then there's me, like, changing my daughter's nappy and, like, trying to stop my son from crying, having an awful time. And I'm looking at these people thinking, we're living a different life right now, but we're trying to do the same thing. So after 6 hours, Jasmine and I looked at each other and just said, I think we've made a mistake here. And we went back to our Airbnb that we were staying in, and we had a weekend in the countryside, and we didn't go back to the festival.
Oh, I love that. I can't imagine going to a festival with children. Like, there's one in Barcelona which is called Brunch Electronic, and they have like a children's section before. So the children's section starts at like 1 p.m. That's from like 1 to 5 p.m. And then at 5 p.m., all the degenerates turn up, It's like the kids go away, and then everybody else turns up. So it's like split. But I can't imagine a multi-day festival with children and mixed in with everyone,
I'll never do it again. Unless they're when they're kids and they're not like very, very young, like when they're old enough to kind of like look after themselves a bit. But I won't do it again. But amazing, stayed at an amazing short-term rental. Host went the extra mile. Like, that was a real highlight for me, actually. Sadie was so excited she peed on the rug when we got in there because there was kids' toys and all that sort of stuff. Like, she was loving life. So another reason to collect a damage waiver or a deposit from your guest, I think, because she was too excited. But they knew we were traveling with kids. They'd really personalized the experience. So yeah, that was cool. And we enjoyed the countryside. So it wasn't too much of a mistake of a weekend. We just didn't need to arrange the festival alongside it, I don't think.
Yeah. Aren't you glad you weren't staying at the festival?
Yes. Yes.
Camping.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, gang, let's get into it. STR highlights. Rafi, anything caught your eye this week?
Yeah, got a little low light for us. So Chamonix is limiting short-term rentals from May 2025. Chamonix is actually a resort in the French Alps, quite known. And luckily, we don't have any properties in Chamonix itself. We have one in Les Ouches, which is also impacted. But essentially, this new rule is limiting one short-term rental per person in Chamonix, Les Ouches, and then 2 in surrounding areas. Essentially, what they found is that 70% of existing properties are second homes in Chamonix, and so they're basically trying to regulate the situation because locals are not really able to afford living there anymore. So I think it's a necessary regulation. It was going to come anyway, and it's probably going to expand across the other resorts in the French Alps. So we're going to keep a really close eye on this. But yeah, I definitely understand, like, whether it's locals, even season workers. It's a very touristy area, and you need season workers to make it function, especially in high season. And they're not even able to really find accommodation. It's quite a tricky situation. The one concern I would have is, whilst they're limiting the short-term rentals, are these second homes going to enter the long-term rental market or not? That's something that I would be keen to see play out.
Yeah, I think for me, this feels like maybe there's a disconnect here between the type of accommodation that's needed for local people and the type of accommodation that we're talking about being available. Mm-hmm. And actually, will the second homeowners just stop renting them out during the weeks they're not there, and actually just they come off the market altogether? Don't know. Thoughts on it, Sarah?
Yeah, this to me, again, is like demonization of short-term rentals without kind of thinking through the details. Like, what's the real problem? The real problem is locals can't afford housing, and seasonal workers in particular can't afford housing. There was a resort town, and I don't remember the name of it at all, but in Australia, and they had a really similar situation. And basically, what they did is the main issue they were trying to solve was the seasonal worker problem, because nobody would then come and work, and then their tourism was impacted because nobody could find a place to stay. And so they basically built like essentially a hostel, or like a set of hostels throughout the city, which were just for seasonal workers. And so in some cases they built them, in some cases they converted and kind of worked with an existing hostel, for example, to turn that into housing, temporary housing for these workers. And so some of them had a mix of like dorm rooms versus um, actually like private rooms. That to me is thinking outside the box and solving the problem. I don't know, just as we were just mentioning, like, are these beautiful chalets the properties that a seasonal worker is going to be able to afford or need? Probably not. Um, for the long-term residents, I think it's a more complicated issue. And again, if that's your second home and you just have it on Airbnb to try and make some extra money, like, is it worth the hassle of having somebody in there long term? I don't know. I think it's an error to think, oh, you have a second home. If it's not listed on Airbnb, you're just going to put it on the long term rental market. Not necessarily, because sometimes either the juice isn't worth the squeeze in terms of the profit that you're getting. Maybe you have a second home because you actually want to use it, so you don't want somebody in there all the time. Maybe, yeah. So I think there's a bunch of factors that are not really being considered.
Yeah, that's right.
Mm.
Rafi, it's the profile of your typical OVO owner that they use the property themselves sometimes.
Yeah, most of them, yeah. But it's like maybe 2-3 weeks a year. It's not a huge amount. So then if they're not allowed to do short-term rentals, these properties would effectively just end up sitting empty.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really know if I'm not convinced that they would actually put that on the long-term market. And like you say, it's just not really. I mean, it would end up being an expensive home, even for a local. So, yeah.
Let's keep an eye on it. It's definitely a low light, but definitely thanks for raising it. I had one highlight, something that caught my eye. I'm sure it caught all your eyes. Is OYO buys French property management company Check My Guest. Now, I must confess, I've not heard of Check My Guest, but it seems they're quite big in the French market. Rafi, one that you're aware of?
No, I actually had never heard of them before.
So this is the mad thing, right? So it's 1,500 listings. So that, supposedly 1,500 listings. So no spring chickens, clearly. And the fee is undisclosed, but it's estimated to be around 100 million euros. So really, really big deal, actually. The deal includes the housing renovation business and luxury rental apartment management company Studio Prestige that is also part of that group. And I think maybe why the deal is 100 million euros is because actually in March, Check My Guest raised funding from the Swiss bank, Banque Privée, to convert vacant offices in Paris into short-term rentals. And I think that's very interesting. We actually did a feature on this a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? Office buildings and city centres being turned into apartments. And I don't think you'd get a deal like that these days unless you did have the wherewithal to convert, to get building licenses from office use to accommodation use. And clearly, OYO think these guys are a good bet for urban growth in the French market, namely Paris, and then clearly the wider French market as well. So it's a good play. And OYO usually get it right, like they manage over 50,000 vacation rental homes in Europe, and most of that's been through acquisition. So they usually get it right. So I think it's interesting. What maybe is worth saying is the stock market at the moment obviously is it's a volatile place, and OYO had been ramping up to have an IPO and then pull back from it. So I wonder if this is something they just need to do to keep the wheels turning and keep showing growth, or genuinely if they do think it's an acquisition worth doing. But yeah, I think for me it looks smart because urban's difficult at the moment, but if you're working with a company that has the wherewithal to ramp up their supply through converting offices into apartments, then it probably makes a ton of sense. Sarah, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I like the idea of the office conversions. I think especially the more that we have remote work or hybrid work, I think it's going to become something that could be an answer to part of the housing crisis that we're seeing in a lot of major cities. And so in that aspect, it seems like a good merger, a good decision to me. Whether it is all a PR stunt or not, I think remains to be seen. But I don't think it's a terrible idea. I think especially kind of given their more urban focus historically, I think it definitely makes sense. It's a great way for them to kind of grow supply without getting involved in kind of the regulatory uh hubaloo, I guess we could say. And like getting,
I like that. I like that.
why not? So
Yeah. Why not do the deal 3 weeks ago before the Olympics, though? You've missed out on all that Olympics revenue. What a waste of time.
It's true. Yeah.
Honestly.
Well, for Check My Guess, it's a pretty big win. I mean, they were raised initially 7 million, and then they turned that around to 100 million. So the exit is really successful.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal, isn't it? It's phenomenal. I didn't think deals like that existed anymore. You know, One Fine Stay was sold for 150 million. And I think a lot of us said to ourselves, that's probably the last deal like that that'll happen like that. But clearly not. So it's interesting. Wonder what it says about the market and where we're heading over the next 12 months. It's been quite a torrid 9 months, and maybe this is the first sign that people are looking at the next 12 months in Europe and seeing great potential. Let's see. Okay, let's get into it, gang. Interesting article. I actually picked it from CNBC, but it's all over the news. Airbnb shares drop 14% on earnings miss as company warns of slowing US demand. Sarah, tell us more.
Yeah. So I think this is definitely something interesting to keep an eye on. So despite the 14% drop in the share price, as far as I'm concerned, like Airbnb still posted pretty solid results from a financial perspective. So they were at 125.1 million nights booked. So that's 9% year over year growth in nights booked. 21.2 billion in booking value, which is an 11% year over year growth. And for revenue, again, an 11% growth year over year. So 2.75 billion in revenue. The hypothesis is sort of twofold on this of why the share price is falling despite, they missed slightly their guidance, but it's still really good, solid financial results. So there's a 15% drop in Q2 profit compared to last year, which is one of the reasons why there's a hypothesis for kind of this drop in the share price. So it was at 555 million this year compared to 650 million in Q2 of last year. The other thing to keep in mind is there definitely has been a slowing in terms of like the booking lead time. And I think that is allowing people to panic a little bit. So we saw the same thing with the Paris Olympics, right? We talked about this with the Paris Olympics, with the Euro. People are booking much more last minute. And even for major holidays. So for Thanksgiving and Christmas, the booking window is shortening. So we're not seeing at all the same level of demand at this time for those dates in the future as we were at the same time last year. So that's also another component of it. But it's worth mentioning that Airbnb and the share price does not necessarily follow the same logic as most of its competitors. And so just as an example, the price to earnings ratio for Booking.com is 24.13, whereas for Airbnb it's 15. And so basically that just means that like the stock price is not following as closely the earnings or the revenue that's actually being reported. I think this is a unique phenomenon to Airbnb because of their brand and because of the way that they are positioned in the market. I think people expect it to be this rocket ship of growth like an Apple or a Google or something like that, rather than actually comparing it to what I would consider its true competition, which is like a Booking or Expedia. So I think that is worth mentioning. And they're also talking about bringing back experiences, which we can talk about a little bit later. But I mean, that is, I don't know where to land on that. You know, they were a flop from the beginning. It was sort of weird. They wanted to vet everything. I did a couple of experiences. They were like, meh. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. They still felt tourist trappy to me. I guess at least my money was going to a local host, but I definitely kind of felt swindled. So I don't know. had experiences
Feels a bit.
way. They weren't underperforming. Now they're relaunching them in 2025 and like touted it in the earnings call as if it's like big growth mechanism. So I don't know. I'm curious to see what they have in mind.
It does feel a bit like the talk of areas they're exploring for growth does feel a bit like they're just throwing red meat towards the investors there a little bit, but the shareholders, sorry. As we talked about earlier, the co-hosting, the talk of the Airbnb's co-hosting features, well, remains to be seen what they could possibly add to the platform that would be meaningful. So yeah, it does feel like I think we went through this last time, right? It seems to be the same pattern. Like, hey, we've got loads coming. This is the price today, but this is what's coming, and maybe some of it's just on a cycle, right? So we'll remains to be seen. Rafi, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that like in that article that we read about all their new ideas, it does really feel like they're just throwing out some stuff to reassure investors, but it's nothing revolutionary. It feels the co-hosting. I mean, not really sure what that means in terms of what already exists and how that's going to be differentiated. Relaunching experiences for me is quite a funny one, just because it's all of this happened this year. I mean, in April they said that they were going to stop any new experiences from coming onto the platform. May, they literally removed all the experiences altogether, and now they're like, well, we're going to bring them back. And then finally, they even talked about adding luxury style conciergerie services, which I really can't understand how they're going to manage that logistically. That's such a localized
Yeah. They'll
service.
never do it. They'll never do it. No
I just don't
chance.
get it. But yeah, interesting. I guess we'll see what comes of all of it.
They'll never do it. No chance. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Let's keep an eye on that. I'll eat my words. And by the time that we get to the next earnings call, there'll be like co-hosting features that everyone loves, and they're doing local concierge. It's interesting that perhaps they don't want to be defined as just an OTA, just a platform providing accommodation. But I think it's, let me put my fork in the ground and say I don't see how that will ever fundamentally change, because that is the nature of the business, right? So interesting.
Well,
okay, cool. Rafi, let's go on to our next one. So very interesting article. We love talking about subscriptions on this podcast. We all love it. Collecting points, not using them, all that fun stuff. So we've got an article from Focus Wire. Is there an untapped potential in hospitality subscriptions, Rafi?
Yeah, so according to this article, there's an emerging trend of subscription models in the hospitality industry. The adoption rate is quite slow, but there's growing interest in paid loyalty programs, which have the potential to increase customer lifetime value and provide more stable revenue streams for hospitality companies. So one of the examples that they gave in this article was Citizen M, which launched a membership community after doing some customer research and asking their guests what they find valuable and inspiring when they travel. And the overall response from most guests was having peace of mind and feeling of recognition. So basically, their membership community that was launched, it's just $120 a year, and it offers members a 15% discount on the lowest price available for their accommodation, guaranteed rooms as long as they're booked 48 hours in advance, and other benefits like late checkouts. I think so. In terms of challenges for hospitality companies, it's in a lot of cases, companies are stuck with some legacy technology that don't really allow for the flexibility of such personalized subscription models. There's also the unpredictable travel demand and competition, mainly with loyalty programs that don't require a fee. So the free opt-in ones. On a personal level, I would say when I think about this, I definitely believe that if you're going to offer a subscription that's paid for, you will probably end up with people who genuinely believe in your brand or actually care more than just the ones that are free to join. Because I think that there are a lot of people who just end up joining all the loyalty programs that they can just to get all the perks, no matter what the brand is, and they'll join many brands. So from that perspective, I think it makes sense. I was just thinking, on a personal level, do I have any subscriptions in hospitality brands, and I don't. Most of my subscriptions are more to do with like sports, so yoga, wake surf. I joined a wake surf membership this year, which it provides discounts on wake surfing and access to events. Um, for me, I feel like the subscriptions are interesting when it provides access to like a community, or personal development. So sports, you can improve your skill, um, unique experiences. But I do question loyalty, like genuine loyalty to a lodging, like a hospitality brand. I'm really keen to hear your opinions, and whether you have any subscriptions to any hospitality brands.
Well, you know my opinion. I would never do it. I don't get it. I really don't get it. I think for me, like I would have to travel so much more than I do for any kind of subscription to be worth it if the only benefit was like a reduction in price. Even at 50%, I don't know if it makes sense. And then my also like another question I have is like if somebody like Airbnb were to launch this, who eats the cost of that? Who's eating that 50% discount? Is it like the hosts that are opting into this? Late checkout, probably worth it. I would say 80% of the time I get a free late checkout anyway, just because I smile and I'm nice. And just like, hey, if you don't have anybody checking in, wouldn't your cleaner love to come a little bit later? So like it's not a huge deal. I'm trying to think of what other kind of benefits. Like I don't know, for like a hospitality or travel brand, like what community? It's like you said, Rafi, like for sports or for something like that. Yeah, it makes sense. But unless it's something super niche, like it's a digital nomad brand community, like I don't know, Selena, I guess before the idea didn't really work. But like if Selena had executed well, something like that would make sense, right? You join Selena, you have to be a member in order to stay at like a Selena property, and then it becomes a community of digital nomads, and you can look up opportunities of, hey, we have all these openings in this particular area, and maybe you just go work from there because there's free bed. Right? But I think for just like general travel brands, like I don't see it. It seems a little bit like Clark Griswold in the 1990s to me, of like, oh, okay, sure, I'm going to sign up for this program. Like when I don't know, it's just like timeshare, I guess it seems like. Great, you have your week every summer and your week every winter at this property, and you go to Orlando and you go there with the family and like whatever. But like people just don't travel like that anymore. So I think unless it's destination specific, unless you have somebody who's like really more traditional, I guess, and isn't traveling, but they go on vacation, then I don't know that I get it without that, or without like a niche specific to the loyalty program.
I agree with both of you. It is a bit of a swing and a miss, isn't it? I think loyalty points work if people travel for their job, because you accrue loyalty points and you turn up at the Hilton. Let's say other hotel brands are available, of course. But you turn up at the Hilton, and I think it was you saying this, Sarah. It was either you saying this or a conversation I was having with another American person somewhere else in my life. But let's say it was you, my most important American in my life. That you walk into a Hilton, and depending on what loyalty status you have dictates what queue you go into when you're queuing up to be checked into your room, and people love that. But I think that starts with I travel with work, I collect my points, and I use my points for 2 weeks a year when I go on holiday, and actually I want to pull in as much choice as possible. So the hotel brands are thinking about trying to pull in short-term rentals as well, and resorts and things like that, to try and turn their corporate traveler into a leisure traveler. Get that, totally get that. I love it with airlines. I love collecting airline points. Never spend them, just collect them. But it's all based on work travel. When it comes to something like an OTA that's in the short-term rental space, namely probably Airbnb and Booking, slightly different, because as you say, you're using them. There isn't that sense of community, and you're using them just to get you the accommodation. They can't offer meaningful discounts because the host would then have to take on the discount. And I agree with Rafi that where I'm subscribing to things, it is normally like fitness or community-based stuff. Stuff to do with our kids, or fitness exercise things, or slightly social things, because really that's where that sense of community exists. And I think OTAs trying to build that sense of community is a swing and a miss for me, I think.
So we're not fan of subscriptions on this podcast, it seems, not in hospitality.
But
And
I
if
love
you can
talking
work
about
for
it.
certain niches, like you say, Sarah. Digital nomads, I think it makes sense. If you're someone who works, from different countries all the time, you love to travel and you just work all over the world and you've found a brand that works for you, then a subscription model makes total sense. But from my perspective, I would only join something if it gave me an extra benefit aside from simply just a place to sleep.
Yeah.
So for me, that would really be sports because for example, if I'm learning a new sport, like I want to be doing it regularly because that's the only way you're gonna learn. So if there's a subscription that makes it super obvious that I get a really great deal by joining because it means that I can go do that like a sport travel type thing several times a year and it's not going to break the bank, then yeah. But other than that, not just for sleeping.
Agreed.
Well, speaking of experiences and driving community and all that sort of good stuff, we're over time, but because we love being together, let's do this last article because we enjoy it so much. Sarah's going to focus on an article from FocusWire, why the travel industry should buy into the experience economy.
Yeah. This was a super interesting article for me because basically what it cites is a completely different type of experience. So not a tourism experience at all for the most part, right? Where it's talking about the real benefit to these kind of new experiences is being a part of the local community. So whether that is doing some kind of volunteering or whether that's doing like wildlife conservation in Africa, it's not like, let me go learn how to make paella and sangria, right? That's not, you can do that with any tour. You can do that in a bunch of places. It's not going to make a real difference. There's another one mentioned in this article that I thought was super interesting called Rover, where you can borrow somebody's dog for like the day. And so I think about, especially like you go on holiday. I know before I had my dog, I've always had dogs. I love dogs, but I couldn't have one at the time because of my hours and things. And I was traveling a lot. But if I was on vacation and hanging out in some seaside town, I'd borrow somebody's dog for a few hours. Why not? So I think things like that make sense. I think that they bring part of the local community in. I think it's something that Airbnb, for example, could capitalize on a whole lot better, rather than sort of the traditional touristy experiences. So I think for me, that was the main takeaway from this article, which was experiences should come back and we should embrace them, but we should completely change our definition of what an experience is and get away from kind of the more touristy notion of them. Like this isn't an activity. This isn't a ticket to like a museum. It's not a tour. It's something that is actually unique, that maybe you wouldn't do every day, that you're going to still talk about. And I think especially for like Airbnb and for short-term rental hosts and for our industry in general, it could tip the balance towards somebody staying in a short-term rental if they have access to these kind of more local opportunities, I would call them, rather than like maybe even experiences, as opposed to a hotel where like you just have 100 pamphlets of all the things that you can do that are tourist traps. So for me, it was interesting. I think that's the type of experiences maybe I could get behind more so than just selling me like a tour. So I don't know. What about you guys? What do you think?
Do you mind if I go next? Oh, sorry, go on, Rafa.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
No, just because I was really aligned with what Sarah was saying on that. For me, it's like I love this. It's not just a line. It's not just a throwaway comment. This living like a local thing, which is why I feel like. Can I say our generation? Yeah, I'm going to say our generation. We're all millennials, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. We want something authentic when we go away. And we do want to like, I love those trips where you might know someone that lives in the town. So they take you to the really cool place to go for a hike. Like I really like going away with work because you always meet people, you meet other SDR people that live in that area. And like some of my best memories of being away are when you feel connected to the place that you're going to. And that's what we're talking about here, is creating that connection. So I agree with, I'll be very quick because I'll let you talk, Rafi, but that's why I agree with Sarah. As putting my short-term rental hat on, that's what as hosts, you should make sure that you're trying to hook people into those local things, whether it be having people that they can go for a hike with and different stuff like that. And you don't necessarily have to rely on a big aggregated app or website to provide that for you. You can do things that are unique to the property. And going back to the Cotswolds example at the weekend, that's what I felt when we were in the Cotswolds, was the host was sort of advising places, villages for us to go and visit. They also set the home up in that way that it was very personal to us because we were a family. They were recommending things that families should do. And we would never have got that if we'd have just stayed somewhere where it had been like, right, you turn up, you get the key out of the key box and no one interacts with you. So that's the best of our industry when it works like that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is that it works when it's people who are introducing you to experiences that they themselves enjoy. Then that's like the only way. If it's just something that they're going to do because they want to make money, and they know that tourists are interested and it's just a tourist trap, it's just not as interesting. So as long as if you're getting introduced to these people that like have this passion for that activity, that experience, that hike, during your holiday, then that's when it's really special.
Rafi, what would be your experience that you'd lead for everybody, and if guests came to Annecy?
I would bring people on hikes. The hiking is really good here. There are so many places. Yeah, the hikes are great.
Sarah, Barcelona?
Oh, Barcelona. I don't know. I think also something like off the beaten path for me. One of my favorite activities, which it's kind of time dependent, but it's like to do a calcetada. So you basically start from like you walk for like 2.5 hours from Barcelona to like a town outside the city. And then you go to like a restaurant and you have this like big traditional Catalan meal with like these long onions, and you get really shit-faced, and then you walk back. So it's like exercise, but it's fun, and it's something that locals actually do. So I think that for me would be like a really authentic experience rather than what they normally do with the tourists, which is like put them on a bus, take them to some random restaurant, like not even outside the town. You got to walk to the calcetada. Otherwise it's not a calcetada. Like you gotta like get the torture. And then like, if you don't twist an ankle on the way back, it's probably not been a good time, you know?
See, they're two great answers. That's just in a nutshell. I want to do both those things. And also I want to rent your dog on Rover, Sarah. So,
Yeah,
I want to do it all.
She'll go with anyone. She's just a happy-go-lucky kind of gal. So
What about you, Leo?
Well, if someone was coming to my neighborhood, I would take them, I'd get them a bicycle and I'd take them to the old reservoir, which is now a water sports center where you can wild swim.
Wow.
They've got a beautiful cafe. It's like a bit of a wild oasis within a very urban area. And I don't see it advertised. It's owned by the council. It's not expensive. It's £6 to swim there, and then £2 for a coffee. So it's very off the beaten track, but you just get a really nice community of people there. And I think what London has is I don't think it's quite the same in every city. Probably not the same in definitely not the same in Annecy, but London is not one city. It's 12 cities, all around the centre. And so really showing someone a neighbourhood, because I think to get to know London is to get to know one of its neighbourhoods. So you'd endorse that. We should be in the experiences business, guys.
I know.
We're building something.
We do a better job than most of the people in it. What are we thinking?
Yeah.
Business idea.
We prefer experiences to subscriptions, let's be honest.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're well over time, but I've loved hanging out with you both. People at home, if you've enjoyed that, please feel free to share, subscribe to the show on all the usual social channels. Plus, we want to hear from you. If you are a host that is leaning into experiences in your part of the world, your part of Europe especially, tell us what it is you're offering. Is it hikes? Is it dog walks? All of that good stuff. Guys, enjoy the rest of your weeks. See you next time. Bye.
Want to stop juggling spreadsheets, calendars, and a dozen apps just to run your rentals? Lodgify makes it easy. It's an all-in-one toolkit for hosts, Build a direct booking website, automate guest messaging, and keep all your channels in sync. Running your rental business your way has never been simpler. And for Good Morning Hospitality listeners, you can get 20% off any yearly plan with code GMH20. Just check the link in the show notes to get started today.